Welcome. Today we will read Lesson 115 in the workbook and from the text, Chapter 11, Section 8, The Problem and the Answer, paragraphs 1 through 8. And now for Lesson 115. For morning and evening review. 99. Salvation is my only function here. My function here is to forgive the world for all the errors I have made. For thus am I released from them with all the world. 100. My part is essential to God's plan for salvation. I am essential to the plan of God for the salvation of the world. For he gave me his plan, that I might save the world. On the hour. Salvation is my only function here. On the half hour. My part is essential to God's plan for salvation. One's only function is to awaken to the truth of what one is. Having been released from all false ideas that bind and imprison oneself. The world is forgiven and hence saved through the letting go of judgments held against it. And therefore, what has never really happened has been seen past. Sins are forgiven and seen as never having been real. One is released from attack and guilt by relinquishing one's attack thoughts towards others. Both one's peace and inner happiness are essential for divinity's plan for the salvation of the world. Fulfilling love's will for oneself to be truly joyful. In forgiving everyone and everything, salvation unlocks the means for one's true happiness to be realized. And now for our text reading for today from Chapter 11, Section 8, The Problem and the Answer, paragraphs 1 through 8. This is a very simple course. Perhaps you do not feel you need a course which, in the end, teaches that only reality is true. But do you believe it? When you perceive the real world, you will recognize that you did not believe it. Yet the swiftness with which your new and only real perception will be translated into knowledge will leave you but an instant, to realize that this alone is true. And then everything you made will be forgotten. The good and the bad, the false and the true. For as heaven and earth become one, even the real world will vanish from your sight. The end of the world is not its destruction, but its translation into heaven. The reinterpretation of the world is the transfer of all perception to knowledge. The Bible tells you to become as little children. Little children recognize that they do not understand what they perceive, and so they ask what it means. Do not make the mistake of believing that you understand what you perceive, for its meaning is lost to you. Yet the Holy Spirit has saved its meaning for you, and if you will let Him interpret it, He will restore to you what you have thrown away. Yet while you think you know its meaning, you will see no need to ask it of Him. You do not know the meaning of anything you perceive. Not one thought you hold is wholly true. The recognition of this is your firm beginning. You are not misguided. You have accepted no guide at all. Instruction in perception is your great need, for you understand nothing. Recognize this, but do not accept it, for understanding is your inheritance. Perceptions are learned, and you are not without a teacher. Yet your willingness to learn of Him depends on your willingness to question everything you learned of yourself. For you who learned amiss should not be your own teacher. No one can withhold truth except from himself. Yet God will not refuse you the answer He gave. Ask then for what is yours, but which you did not make, and do not defend yourself against truth. You made the problem God has answered. Ask yourself, therefore, but one simple question. Do I want the problem, or do I want the answer? Decide for the answer, and you will have it, for you will see it as it is, and it is yours already. You may complain that this course is not sufficiently specific for you to understand and use. Yet perhaps you have not done what it specifically advocates. This is not a course in the play of ideas, but in their practical application. Nothing could be more specific than to be told that if you ask, you will receive. The Holy Spirit will answer every specific problem as long as you believe that problems are specific. His answer is both many and one, as long as you believe that the one is many. You may be afraid of his specificity for fear of what you think it will demand of you. Yet only by asking will you learn that nothing of God demands anything of you. God gives, he does not take. When you refuse to ask, it is because you believe that asking is taking rather than sharing. The Holy Spirit will give you only what is yours and will take nothing in return. For what is yours is everything, and you share it with God. That is its reality. Would the Holy Spirit, who wills only to restore, be capable of misinterpreting the question you must ask to learn his answer? You have heard the answer, but you have misunderstood the question. You believe that to ask for guidance of the Holy Spirit is to ask for deprivation. Little child of God, you do not understand your Father. You believe in a world that takes because you believe that you can get by taking. And by that perception, you have lost sight of the real world. You are afraid of the world as you see it, but the real world is still yours for the asking. Do not deny it to yourself, for it can only free you. Nothing of God will enslave his Son, whom he created free, and whose freedom is protected by his being. Blessed are you who are willing to ask the truth of God without fear, for only thus can you learn that his answer is the release from fear. Beautiful child of God, you are asking only for what I promised you. Do you believe I would deceive you? The kingdom of heaven is within you. Believe that the truth is in me, for I know that it is in you. God's sons have nothing they do not share. Ask for the truth of any son of God, and you have asked it of me. Not one of us but has the answer in him to give to anyone who asked it of him. We are reminded here of the biblical reference that one must be as little children in order to enter the kingdom of heaven. Children recognize that they do not understand the world, and thus freely asked for guidance. Realizing that one does not know is the very starting point for learning. One must first accept that no thought one holds is wholly true, and that one's interpretations of perceptions are lacking. One has need to question everything that one has taught oneself, and recognizing that one has been a poor teacher to oneself. This appreciation leads to a willingness to be taught and guided by that which does know, the holy teacher of truth. One's choice is either to keep the problem or ask for help within. At first, one will ask for answers to specific problems until one recognizes that there are no specific problems. And it is important to recognize that when one asks for help, one will always be answered in one form or another.